That's
the intermission.
There you go.
Okay.
It does that on and off. It was just the intermission, that's all.
Yeah. You got to do it.
Okay, I think it's up. Is it up?
My phone's rebooting. It's,
Oh, yours went down too?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You check yours? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I see that running now. So each time that the spiritual government was going to shift power in the earth, it brought the cloud on the scene to do it. Now, when we see these things around us, it's not that we're not in the cloud. We are in the cloud. But those things come present. Those things become nearer. Those dimensions kind of close into one another in order to shift a government from one thing to another, from one dispensation to another, from one creation to another. We've seen it do it in creation time in Genesis. We've seen it do it in Noah's time. We've seen it do it in Elijah's time. We've seen it do it in Moses' time. We see it do it all the way through, and the cloud will show up, but it is to wake us up and make us realize there is a shift in the government going on. And when we recognize that and understand that, it's easier for us to make the change. And that's why it shows up so much. This mighty angel, he came with a sickle in his hand to do the harvest. He came with, if you look through the zodiac, he came with an ear of corn in his hand. He came with seed in his hand. He came with all kinds of things in his hand. He came with a sickle in the book of in the book of Revelations. He came with a little book in his hand, and he comes with so many things. Well, now he's come with this great book in his hand, and the redemption plan is finished. The book is open, and the names in the book are being called or being brought from heaven to earth, are being dimensionally brought into here for the purpose of moving us over into a brand new creation. For the purpose of moving us over into a spiritual government that'll bring the earth to a one world government, that'll bring the people to a one spirit government, one spirit system, to understand. And when I say a one spirit system, if you haven't been listening, what I'm talking about is there's no other spirits out there except the Spirit of Christ. And the Spirit of Christ is evolving these things to himself now, or to us. We understand who we are, and we're bringing the entire earth into a kingdom according to the book of Revelations 11 and 15, 16. We're bringing it to a kingdom that has taken over all the other kingdoms of the world. And it's the kingdom of Christ. It's when that angel came with a book in his hand, he came also, if you go over there into Genesis, and he took that stone and he cast it, and this great cloud, it took a stone and cast it into the earth, and it struck Babylon. And Babylon was torn to pieces. It was destroyed. This great stone crushed it. And we see that exactly over in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter and the 3rd chapter in there. Daniel saw a great stone cut out of the mountain, and this great everything that was in its way. And that's what you see happening now. This great stone would come into the earth at the same time that there were kingdoms in the earth. And these kingdoms, if you go back and look, one of them said, Daniel talked about it, and one of them would be a kingdom of iron, and the other one would be a kingdom of clay. And it would have 10 toes, and it would come out, and then there would come a stone cut out of the mountain, and it would crush the mighty kingdoms, and that stone cut out of the mountain would take over. at the same time the stone was cut out of the mountain, these two great kingdoms will be here. And we had a prophet on the scene with a stone in his hand, and he said that that stone was the message that was coming forth to shift us in to a different power out of the church ages, move away from all that. And at the same time, there was the great kingdom. Eisenhower over the United States meant iron and clay. So there was the United States and Russia, the two greatest powers on earth, and at the same time, an angel from heaven with a stone in his hand cast this great stone into the earth. Out of the cloud, every other kingdom in the earth. There's not one kingdom that it has not crushed. There's not one kingdom that it is not changing. And there will be no other kingdoms left except the kingdom of Christ when this is all over. And it'll be an amazing place to live. This mighty angel came down out of heaven, clothed with a cloud, a rainbow upon his head. His face were like the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. Another great covenant being set up. A rainbow in the cloud being set up in the earth the same way it was in Noah's day. A brand new creation. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man, when the Son of Man is revealed. Sunset Mountain brought the cloud into plain view. It was put in magazines, Time Magazine, Look Magazine, Life Magazine, Popular Mechanics Magazine. It was put everywhere across the world, a mysterious cloud. Oh, all of them have something to say about it now with but we know what it was. It was Christ himself, the people beginning to drop into the earth under a brand new message, under a brand new day. Theophanies dropping into the earth, into families, into moms, into dads, moving into the earth and beginning to grow up into love divine and into this great message that we have today. What a resurrection it has been out of dead church ages, out of dead denominationalism, out of dead governments, out of man-made governments, out of all these things. What a mighty resurrection it has been out of the cloud, bringing us into the earth and bringing us up into harvest, through summertime, through heat, through harvest, through seed, through everything. We have made it through, and we've come to the other side of the mountain. It was Sunset Mountain. The cloud was made plain once again and moved us upon the face of the waters across the great sea of civilization. Moses moved upon the face of the waters across the great sea of civilization, stepped out on the other side, and it was a brand new day. And we stepped into the spiritual ark. We stepped into the spiritual movement of the government of Christ, and we moved across the face of the waters, and we come out on the other side. And this great Sunset Mountain, while it took the whole world under, while it took every nation and crushed it, while it was doing all those things with the mighty stone in his hand and with the book, he also had a chain. You remember? He seen him, he had a chain in his hand. With that chain, he bound the devil. Our message. What is our understanding? We took those processes, we bound them up, we made them a part of our process, we put them in the chain just like everything else. It's the devil's process is just like the chain of justification. It's just like the chain of the seals. It's just like the chain of the trumpets. It's just like the chain of the mind. All those things were chains or processes that we moved through, and we took a chain and we bound, or we completed and finished up the devil. And we bound him up and we fixed it up where he had nothing more to say. He can't hinder us. He has no weight. He has no sin. He has no kingdom. He has no place he's staying. He has no place that he is. It's not even a he anymore. We recognize it's just a process of us coming through these great things. And we've taken him off of the throne. He is not an entity. He is an attribute. That's all he was. He was a process. And we took that off of the throne as an entity and said, Let's put it where it belongs. We came here as Lucifer, a great light shining. We stepped into serpent and we began to move through the development, through the space of time, and we took on being the devil. We took on being Satan. We took on being the red dragon. We became the Leviathan. We became the snake. We became all of these things. We became it all. And we passed our way back through, and we became the son of perdition. And then we became the prodigal son. And when we became the prodigal son, the father said, you know, have you had enough? And the cloud began to move in the earth. And the prodigal son said, you know, I just go back home. I got a whole lot more there than I've got anywhere else. I've got a father that loves me. I've got brothers. I've got everybody there. I can go back and I can enjoy myself. And the prodigal son turned, and the one that had become the red dragon and the devil and all of these things, Lucifer, woke up and went back home, stepped back into his understanding of who he is, finished up the process of the devil, and came back and came out of the cloud. And now there's a new spiritual movement going on, and that is a movement away from the devil, away from all of that iniquity, away from all of that sin, away from all of that illusion. And there's a brand new movement going in this day, and that is love divine. That is the great book, the great chain, the great stone. We chained the devil up. We crushed his kingdom. We opened up the book of redemption, and we are looking into these things and understanding what all has been redeemed. What a beautiful message and understanding we have come to in this day. That we could take this great book and open it. That we recognize that we are worthy to open it. We took the great book. We took the chain that nobody was able to do. Nobody was able to bind the devil. Nobody was able to put him out of their minds. Nobody was able to get rid of the condemnation. We all had it, and it come all the way down through the ages. Even the fifth church age messenger feared. He said, even though I know what justification is, I fear every day that I'm lost. That's a fifth church age messenger. And we've come past that completely. We have chained up. We've taken the chain and we chained up the devil. We chained up. We made him a part of the process. And if his face shows up, we say, don't worry, that's just a part of the process. And we go through it. And we evolve and we continue to grow more and more and more. As we look into the redemption plan and we see all the names, all the glory, everything's going on. In that cloud, Sunset Mountain, that cloud hanging there. William Branham made a statement. He said, Moses was there. Elijah was there. The sages were there. We were all there. That was his statement. We were all there, Easter seal. Do we understand that? That cloud is us. We are all there. Nobody's missing. When Jesus finished up and he resurrected, I'm sure that he had a great time talking with Judas, telling him what a great manifestation he had produced and what he had done, and not to worry about what his reputation would be down through the ages. That I'll bring you back to your glory. You, Judas, are the prodigal son. I'll bring you back to your glory. Here we are in this day, bringing him to the proper glory that he needs for what he did. Judas and Jesus, all the way down through time, the twain have become one flesh. The scripture said that the twain, the ordinances were there, all these things. There's a middle wall of partition, everything's there. But it said that middle wall will be torn down and the twain will become one flesh. What do you think that's talking about? It's talking about all the way down through time, those twins that you had, all the way down through from Cain and Abel, down, down into Ishmael and Isaac, and down into Jacob and Esau, and all the way down, and those twins walking, Moses and Balaam, and Moses and Korah, and the twins that were all across the universe that show up all the time. Those great twins, Jesus and Judas together. The twain have become one flesh. How did it happen? We took a book in our hand. We in the cloud begin to bring a different government into the earth. And this government had amnesty. This government had mercy. This government had all the things it needed for every person that had an ordinance against them, for that ordinance to be removed and done away with. And this government brought in the entire redemption plan. And it says you're free. You're totally free. Easter Sunday morning did that for all of us 2,000 years ago. It's taken us this long. It's taken us 6,000 years coming through all the cloud, all the way over into this cloud, and now we are the cloud in the earth. Moving, talking, walking. The cloud is setting itself up in the earth. It's not in the sky anymore. It has moved into the earth, and the kingdoms of the world have become the kingdoms of our Lord. It's a great day we're in. It's a great understanding we're in. You love him? Sunset Mountain brought the cloud into plain view once again and moved us from the face of the waters across the great sea of civilization into a new spiritual government, into a new world. And a world came about when we sat down on the other side. We sat down on Sunrise Mountain. It's a brand new day. It's not sunset. It's Sunrise Mountain now. Love divine. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily besets us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Listen to me. Everybody's yelling the end of the world. Oh no, this is the end of the world. Cuban Missile Crisis. End of the world, end of the world. It's going to blow everything up. Russian, when the walls go, end of the world, end of the world. People's going to get a hold of all those Russian bombs. They're going to destroy everything. End of the world, end of the world. SARS, end of the world. HIV, it'll infect the whole world. We'll all die of AIDS. End of the world. Coronavirus, end of the world, end of the world. Listen to me, you young people. When you get my age, you that are 15 years old now, 12 years old, 20 years old, you're going to hear it a million times. End of the world. It ain't ending. New governments move into the earth. Spiritual governments from the cloud bring the people needed into the earth to make the moves into greater governments. And it's happening all the time. And I don't know when it'll be, but run this race with endurance. You're here. Set aside the weight and the sin and all the illusions of those other governments. Set them aside, put them away, and know that you are here for the duration. You are here, and you're going to bring it further into Aquarius, and you're going to bring it further into greater imagination and greater creation. And you're going to eventually, some generations out there who may not ever hear my voice naturally are going to bring it into Capricorn. They're going to bring this thing into the earth and make it work. More than imagination, but a manifestation. How long will that be, Brother Parnell? 2,054 years from 1996 is when the sun moved into Aquarius. Okay? 2,054 years it will remain there. And then there's another 2015 years in Capricorn. 4,000 before we'll move out of the government of the zodiac, so to speak. And all of these other governments are just embedding the zodiac and all of its beauty into the earth. All of these things are happening. And we moved into a brand new government, a kingdom of the Lord. And from Adam's day to now, it's been moving forward, every movement of that spiritual government. And now we're down here and we moved into a greater government, a greater kingdom of the Lord. And it'll continue to evolve and manifest. And you'll see some horrible atrocities while it does it. You'll see a lot of things humanity will do and wish it hadn't done. And it will correct itself as you go for hundreds and thousands of more years until we come to an understanding, an amazing understanding that the mind of Christ has taken over the earth. And it is evolving and it is becoming greater and greater. This government, this spiritual movement that's happening now is one more great movement in the kingdom of our Lord. Not going to be another. Don't think this is the last one. This government is going to move and move and move and move, and it's going to pull the one world government right along with it, and it's going to happen time and time and time again, and we are a great part of this, and do not lose hope. Stop thinking about the end of the world and stop thinking about the coming of the Lord. He's here. He's been here. Stop thinking it's going to get greater. He's going to fly to someday. He's just going to come down out of the heavens. He's here. He ain't coming from nowhere. He's here. We are alive. We are doing exactly what the Spirit of the Lord wants us to do. Government, and in so doing, we see the natural government all around us progressing into a one world movement. Trust that you are a great part, but a phase of what's going on, and there will be others.
If you're here, it's proof that He's here. Don't have to look for something outside yourself.
That's right.
If you're here, that is proof that He is here. I and you and me. I'll never leave you. Never. Over time and time again, He said it.
That's right.
He's showing us. He may not be that body walking around with long hair and a beard and sandals. That was just a projection, a human projection of Him. But His Spirit is projecting through these bodies right now.
That's right.
If you're here, He's here.
Yes. Anything anyone wants to say about it?
Brother Edwin Aroma asked a question. In relation to visitations last 2002, 2003, 2004, 5, and 6, how is it related with the one world government? So your visitations 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, how is it related with the one world government?
Well, if you remember, in 2001, just prior to all of that happening, the Twin Towers came down. And that was a shift in government. The world, not just the United States, but the world has never been the same since. There was a huge shift in government, and that's what brought on the great spiritual movement. 2001, if you remember, I was supposed to be in those towers on that morning, that Tuesday morning. At 8 o'clock, I was supposed to give a tour. And there were 7 others, and then there was me. I would have been the 8th person. And at 8:20 a.m., the plane struck those towers. Struck the first tower, which I would have been in, and I would have been at the top of that tower giving a presentation and getting ready to do a tour. That evening before, I felt like I should not go. I was here in Fairborn, I called the office in New York and I said, I don't really need to be there for this tour. Please, can I just come in later in the day? And they said, yeah, what you're going to be doing with the corporation will start at like 3 o'clock, so come in on the flight that gets in about 1. We'll pick you up at LaGuardia. I said, okay. And so, and I told him, I said, Jamie, I don't feel like going. I'm not going to New York, so I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't feel good about it. I'm staying home. Well, that next morning, 8:20, all of those people that were in that tour, of course, died in it. And I would have been there, but I was, quote, in symbol, the 8th person pulled out of the fire. The 8th day, the eternity keeps going on. Eternity doesn't die in the 7. Eternity is never complete. There are 7s and there are 3s and there are 5s. It's never complete. It just keeps moving on and on and on. And so it was eternity pulled out of the fire, or a new government coming into the earth. The guy that came out of the old government, out of the 7, out of the Twin Towers, out of the destruction, comes over here in 2002 and bang, here comes the new government. Spiritual government. I get visitation, and he talks to me about great things that we had not seen before. I get 2003, the visitation in March. I get 2004, the woods of the prophet, and we just kept coming through 2005 and 6. All of those visitations were the Lord, and I'm not trying to glorify myself, I'm just looking back at it. It's where the Spirit pulled a person out of the fire of the old governments and then came and set up a new government in him. Now we move on. It's more than just me. It's a movement of the people. All of the right people were already in the earth. The Edwins were sitting right there in the Philippines. The Louis were sitting there. The Mittas were sitting in New Zealand. You could go on and on and on. There were people all over the world that had already moved in from the cloud, were living here and prepared themselves and was getting ready for the new government to take place. So the old government gets crushed in 2001. Twin Towers fall. The new government comes in 2002, 3, 4, 5, and 6 with all the visions and the visitations. By 2008, we were well on our way to understanding what had taken place. By 2014, bang, here comes the government that was moving its way in, love divine, and it opens itself up. And we have been learning in love divine and coming through this great period for 6 years now. But that, to me, that's how it relates.
It's another question from Michael Aina. Forgive me if I mispronounce your last name. What is the message we must understand with the COVID-19 pandemic? Why now?
Well, it's a pandemic, whether we want it to be or not. They've made it so. Qualifies as one like we've had before, like the Spanish influenza and HIV, and those were some pandemics. This one, I don't know. But the governments of the world have certainly made it a pandemic, and the Spirit of the Lord is in it. There's no doubt in my mind about that. This is what I see in it. COVID-19, do all you can. I will tell you that right now. Do all you can to keep from getting it. It's out there. There's a virus out there. And it can kill you. So I'm not belittling that, and I'm not trying to take the concern out of that. It's there. It's with you. It's among the people. And stay clean. Use what you need to use, and stay home and do what you need to do to keep from getting it. But I think that the whole thing has been a movement the same way that Moses did in Egypt when he blanketed Israel and Egypt with the covering of the blood And then they did every year they took the Passover lamb and they put it up for 14 days. And when they put it up, they would bring it out and sacrifice it. And it would be a move. That year, a spiritual new government moved into the earth and everybody was clean for a year until the next year. And then they did it again. I think that's what COVID-19 has been. It has been a blanket across the earth to bring the governments to one world government, to bring us to a one spirit world where that we love one another. It's pulled us that much closer together to do things for one another, to love one another. It's done everything that it can to blanket the earth, cover the earth, and become a time of micro, internal, checking yourself, and it's the symbol in the earth today that we've all gone micro. That's what it is. I personally would listen to my government. I would listen to them. If you're asking that, do what they tell you to do. Don't take it lightly. It is a virus and it can kill you, but it is a symbol of something much greater going on. A movement of the Spirit of the Lord in the earth to blanket the earth and bring on a greater love for one another. If you remember Friday night, we talked about that declaration of Jesus. He said, a new declaration I give to you. Love one another. That went out. It was a spirit that came out of the mouth of Jesus Christ, and it has moved into the earth. He didn't beg people. He didn't ask people. He didn't say you can if you want to, but you don't have to. He said, love one another. You will. This is a declaration. Period. You will love one another. That's moving across the earth. As I said Friday night, however it comes about is that's something we all need to take a good look at and watch and be prepared. COVID-19 has brought us closer together. Will more of those kinds of things bring us closer? Possibly. Will greater spiritual movements of the government bring us closer? Absolutely. But it's all been purposed in the earth and we're all here for it. And prepare yourself, because we are going to do exactly what Jesus said. We are going to love one another. Whatever circumstances has to come about to make that happen, it will happen.
Is there no other questions?
Okay. Have anything anybody wants to say? Have a great year. This is Easter morning. Easter afternoon now, I think. Here. So most of you are finished, but have a great time. Stay healthy. Watch the spiritual movement of the government in the earth. If somebody's sitting back here bringing you the same old message, they missed the move. They missed what's going on. They have missed the spiritual movement in the earth. Don't stay back there. Sooner or later, whether it's on this side of the veil or the other side of the veil, they'll catch up, but don't stay back there. You move with the spirit movement in the earth and what's happening today. Keep moving. I want to stay with 60 years ago. Go ahead. I love you. Smack your tent pegs down there and stay. But don't be sending me your messages, because I don't want them. I've got other things to do, greater things to do.
Right.
Yep.
For
signs out there
All
today.
As we all stand here, we are exalted. We understand who we are. We understand our day. It's a great day we live in. We are the Christ. We have declared ourselves to be so. And by the authority, heal us, take care of us, lead us, guide us. All of this Spirit that's in our midst, continue to move inside us. And we